What's up, guys? How we doing? Little Wednesday Linc, normal time. It's been a little bit since we've done this, of course. It's regular timing, consecutive recording, everything else. But here we are, Thomas, back.
We're totally capable of doing it, right? On time. Well, not really. We're 4 minutes late. This time it's my fault, but close to being on time here as it's finally draft month, Josh. What are we, 22 days away from the NFL draft? Talk about that. We got to play golf with Nolan Smith this past weekend. Hung out with him all day Monday. We'll talk about that. That was pretty fun. And, of course, NFL owner meetings, Tush Push. I'm sure we're going to see comments on that.
Yes.
I'm so tired of talking about the Tush Push, but I'm sure we will. So, lots going on. How are you?
I'm doing well. About as well as we can, even though there's a little bit of news, but you kind of mentioned it here. And we've talked about this offline. Even though there's news, it just feels like there's kind of a lull. I think we're all experiencing that. There's kind of like, okay, the Eagles have a pretty good squad. They get the 32nd pick. The draft is, 24 days away, something like that.
Oh, it's 24. Okay.
So, we're getting there, but it's just we haven't had. I don't know. I guess it's maybe just kind of comparing things to last offseason, but there was more of the speculations like, okay, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, what's going to change? How is it going to be for the team? Obviously, polarizing decisions or at least opinions that we had throughout really the entire offseason. But now it's like, I don't know, there may be a little bit of a less until something actually happens. I feel like I'm getting that sense from a lot of people, whether it's in comments or live streams or a combination of the two. But all things considered, doing well. I don't want to talk about the Tush Push for the next month and a half, but I think it's going to be a continual conversation now because they tabled it till then.
Well, that's obviously a big conversation this week. Quickly, though, on the draft, I think I figured out why the NFL draft lacks a little bit of hype right now. The quarterback class is awful. This is one of the worst quarterback classes we've seen in a long time. That's no offense to the quarterbacks in this class. Any one of them could turn out to be pretty good. The problem is there isn't that superstar that everybody has to have their hands on. And Cam Ward's going to go 1, and then now we're reading reports even today that the New York Giants won't take a quarterback at 3. Shador might start to free fall a little bit there. So I think that we've seen recent drafts where there's 6 quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round. Last year, for instance, there's all these different guys. You're like, oh my gosh, got to get myself one of them. And the fact there's basically 2 that for sure will be first rounders, with the rest kind of being massive question marks, has dulled it down a little bit here. Is kind of my it's my take on it. I think that's the reason. And there isn't a lot of superstars in this draft. Like Abdul Carter is probably the best player in the draft, but I think if you were to compare him to other drafts, he wouldn't be the first overall draft pick, right? He would be somewhere between 5, 6, and 7 because there have been some loaded drafts the past couple of years.
Yeah, Anthony DeBona had said this, I think, on last night's stream of the meat and potatoes. Not that there's not a few, good quality players for sure, but the meat and potatoes of this draft are later on. You could get a really good player anywhere from 10 to 15 to 50. And so, it just changes things. To your point, you're not the immediate hype of oh my gosh, there's so much just kind of the front end of top 10 players. It's more so, and maybe this works out to the Eagles' favor because the positions that they do need, it does look like there's some depth there. But yeah, the big hype of who's going to go, is this going to be an ultimate game changer? I don't know. Is it the fact that we're still a little bit further away? It kind of feels like you're talking about with the draft there and not quite the same level of talent.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, as we start to get a little bit closer, it usually starts to build in momentum. And, of course, we'll be streaming that. So for people that are curious and wondering, I did 100%. See Michael commenting, did something happen? Why are we live? It's the Wednesday Linc. It's the Wednesday Linc. Thomas and I normally do it. I don't know if you're confused. We've been a little hit or miss over the couple weeks because, the madness of free agency and scheduling and vacations or trips or anything like that. But hopefully a little bit more regular. Also, shout out to Matt with the 10 Thomas Mott show memberships. There you go,
Matt.
Big time there, Eagle One.
How about that?
Let's go.
Appreciate that.
Congratulations to all those members there. Yeah, I think, I think that it was Brandon says, Josh Thomas, where's that? Sorry, I missed that one. I tore my ACL and MCL. Can you pray for a miracle recovery? Go Birds.
Jeez.
Man, that's awful. Dude, I'm
that's
sorry
tough
to hear that. Yeah, prayers for the recovery, rehab there. Actually, I was going to mention, because I got another comment that was talking about earlier, and speaking of recovery and rehab, Nakobe Dean. People were asking if we've seen any other updates. I don't think that they're going to. I mean, you could look at like Instagram, but there's not really going to be any major updates until we get to what, like maybe training camp. But even that,
Yeah.
like the torn patellar tendon, it's going to be, you get into August. Maybe he's going to play some preseason. I don't know though. It's the Eagles are in an interesting situation right now because you got a lot of areas where it feels like, and you mentioned the NFL, the league meetings that have been going on, the GMs, or really everyone talking, but Howie Roseman talking to the media, Nick Sirianni, Jeffrey Lurie. You try to glean some things from, what they're saying and some takeaways. And I'm sure we'll get into all of it, what are they talking about for Dallas Goedert. But I think for me, it's like Howie Roseman even saying, hey, we've made some decisions here. We're looking to maybe long-term pay some of the guys that we have on the roster. And also, talent acquisition is not done. But it's interesting the way that he phrased it because it's like, yeah, but is that through the draft? Is that going to be a free agent acquisition? And even if it is, like how big of an acquisition are we talking about? So it kind of suggests that they're going to, yes, you have some draft picks. We trust Howie. I'm sure that he'll make some miracles happen and swap trades or swap picks and everything like that. And we'll probably walk away from it going, great, we feel pretty good about the draft picks. But still, all things considered, they're banking on youth as they did last year. And I don't know. It's like, are they banking on youth too much? Is it too much of doubling down? Because I was totally for it last year. Nolan does.
Sure.
If Hassan Reddick does not get traded, Nolan Smith does not get those snaps. Nolan doesn't turn into a player as quickly as he is now. So it's a good thing. But then you look at Sidney Brown. I'm not as concerned about Tyler Steen, but you could loop that one in there. You could potentially even throw in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I know Nakobe Dean will be that guy. I don't know that he's going to be ready until middle of the season. I hope I'm wrong. I would just say I hope that I'm completely wrong, and we start week 1, Nakobe Dean's back out there. He's good to go. But it feels like the medical reports that we're getting is he's going to be like more the middle of the season at best for whenever he's legit 100% or even close to 100% to get back out there. So I don't know. You go with all those guys on the youth. I mean, from what Howie's side, it kind of feels that direction.
Yeah, it's interesting just kind of where we're going here in the next couple of weeks, right? I think Dallas Goedert is kind of the linchpin of the NFL draft and really the biggest potential non-draft pick move that Philadelphia might make in the coming days. Now, I think we both would agree that's probably going to happen during the NFL draft. Day 2, something were to go down. Day 1, maybe if they want to get a third-round draft pick, if they're lucky for Dallas Goedert, more like a 4th or a 5th-round draft pick. That seems like the move that they keep hinting at. And during the NFL owner meetings, we both talked about it the past couple of days. There wasn't really a glaring, what's the word here, rave for keeping Dallas Goedert by Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman. It kind of sounded like they were both saying, hey, he's on our team right now, but we'll see. So I think he's going to be the next big move to go ahead and fall. And then I do think that Howie has his eyes on this NFL draft. We talk about it not being a very top-heavy draft, but you did mention it there, and Anthony DeBono's done a great job covering it on all of his stuff, basically saying that there's plenty of depth to be found in round 2, round 3, round 4. And I think the Eagles are very confident in the current young core. Safety continues to be the concern for me. I think Sidney Brown is the one player that I just need to see more of. He hasn't really gotten to play a lot due to the injury and the fact Garner Johnson got acquired this past offseason. Everybody else to me seems fine. I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can be a really good linebacker. And I really think that the key there is Vic Fangio showcasing that he can make anybody, Oren Burks, Zach Bond, whoever you want, Nakobe Dean, all of them played their best football of their entire career this past season in the first year of Vic Fangio. And so 2 years for Jeremiah Trotter Jr., year 2 after having his rookie season, I think he's going to be okay. I'm just very curious to see where they go in this NFL draft because I think they had another meeting today or earlier this week with another offensive lineman, the one from Georgia. So it's been almost 2-1, maybe even 3-1 on their top 30 visits being offensive linemen. And a lot of me thinks that this is just Jeff Stoutland wanting to meet everybody. That way he can kind of pick the right card out of the deck. But it also tells me maybe they really think they want to get an extra offensive lineman if they're worried about Tyler Steen or if Landon Dickerson got a little bit too hurt too many times this past offseason or, Lane Johnson is 35 years old, got to have his replacement. Maybe that's where they're going to go in the draft and be a little bit surprising, I would say, with their first round draft pick.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of those visits. We will say there's plenty left, right? I think we're at 13.
Yeah, we got a lot left.
They could do 17 more.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem as likely for a trade-up scenario yet. Let's just say that. Yet. They've still got 17 more that could come in. But if we were looking at a trade-up scenario, I feel like they will. It would be surprising if they don't, but I feel like they will bring in a Malachi Starks. Like, wouldn't you just do that? Because on the off chance, if he's starting to fall just a little bit, then you maybe consider trading up. It's a Philly dog situation. You set yourself up for that move. So maybe, but we haven't seen that. We haven't seen Nick Emamwari get brought in yet. We haven't seen a Shamar Stewart get brought in yet.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a Walter Nolan get brought in for a top 30 visit. Now, they've been to a lot of these pro days, as a lot of teams are, but the top 30 visit is kind of that extra tip of the cap to say, okay, we're really considering bringing you in or really considering drafting you. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're at, off the top of my head, out of those 13, probably, what's that got to be, like 6? Are we 6 or 7 offensive linemen?
At least half. I think we're at half right now.
So,
pretty crazy.
I feel like we say this every single year. It's not the sexy pick for an offensive lineman. It's like never the sexy pick for an offensive lineman. But if at 32 an offensive lineman is taken, the majority, I'm going to just say, I know that a lot of people will be like, no, that's a solid pick, but the majority of people will probably be like, you got to be kidding me. At 32, we're getting an offensive lineman. We don't need that person yet. Lane Johnson playing like he does. But if they do that, they feel strongly enough. And I might say to myself, I might even say publicly on the stream, I might be like, yeah, I don't know necessarily. Depending on who's available there, we could have gone a different direction. But personally, I would prefer if we go edge, interior D-line. Heck, you could potentially even go safety, depending on who's available. That would be my hope, is you go defense instead of offensive line, because there's some other guys, and the Jeff Stoutland argument that we always make of just throw him a random 3rd rounder, 4th rounder, 5th rounder, and say, who do you want? Who do you like out of who's available? And
even
you can make him good
rounder.
enough. Sure,
second rounder's been successful. I mean, you look at Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, those guys kind of came out of nowhere. Not really nowhere, but it wasn't necessarily like we have to get an offensive lineman at this point. I think people kind of thought that you could wait one more year for the Cam Jurgens, Jason Kelce replacement. Thank goodness they went ahead and got him a year early. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's just say that. I think it's going to be very interesting. And I think that as the final, whatever the number is, 15, 16, 17, top 30 visits come to Philadelphia, we get a clearer picture. And I really am waiting for the safeties to kind of come in. They have to take a visit with Malachi Starks, right? They have to take a visit with Nick Emmanwari. It'd be crazy if they didn't. If they truly think Sidney Brown's the guy, which I hope so, because then you have to spend a first-round draft pick on Malachi Starks. But if they truly think he's the guy, then it's going to take a lot of trust from Eagle fans going into training camp, and maybe even early on in the season, for us to be like, okay, just trust Fangio, We're going to see what happens. Remember, Gardner Johnson was getting ripped to shreds the first 4 games of the season. I mean, there were people saying he looks awful in coverage, one of the worst open field tackle rates in the NFL, and then he figured it out.
He did look awful in coverage. I mean, yes, he did. He definitely did. But then he turned things around. So
we'll see. And something against Sidney Brown. I mean, I think Sidney Brown has all the tools to be the guy. It's just a matter of, has he had enough reps, and can he stay healthy? And will he be healthy enough to be 100% ready to be, an every down safety to the caliber that, C.J. Gardner-Johnson was this past season? So we'll see.
Yes. One thing that I'll say real quick, actually, let me just mention this before we get there, because I see this is a little bit later because it's already been brought up by Frank from Philly, but the Dallas Goedert traded to the Carolina Panthers for a 4th-round pick.
It's not real.
It's not. Yeah, it's not real. I know people are like, hey, wait, maybe that's legit.
Yeah.
So
did it happen?
I did see a lot of those April Fool's jokes going around of like, hey, trade, signing, who's this guy? But yeah, not official. It would have been bigger news. You would know for sure if it was fake or real. Know. Let's just say that. If it actually happened, we would, of course, be titling this stream like Dallas Goedert traded, like something of that sense. But no, there's not been a Dallas Goedert trade yet. We could see one, who knows, sooner rather than later, maybe. Maybe they wait till June, July.
Maybe.
I will say, though, going back to the previous comment on that side, when I look at Sidney Brown, it's questionable for the safety. The whole C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. They're looking at Justin Reed, so I'm just like, do they fully believe in Sidney Brown, or was it like they traded, they missed on Justin Reed, and now by default they believe? I mean, they believed in him, but it's like now we really believe in him because we kind of have to. That's the only potential concern. But I'm with you. I'm with a lot of other people. You see the tools that he has how he's, tools in his body wording. Like, you see what he can do.
Yeah.
It's just he's got to refine it. He can't be like full speed all the time. It's pick his spots, pick his moments, because he goes flying past someone and misses a tackle, or he's processing too quickly and all of a sudden he gets beat in coverage. He could be great. He's the Red Star player. We mentioned a couple different times. They scouted him that way for a reason. And I think there's, certainly an aspect of it because, look, he was coming off of his injury, the torn ACL. He didn't get to practice in training camp. He didn't get to have those reps. So it was later in the season once he was finally back on the field. And, for a guy of his stature, second year of the league, last year, which was whenever he was trying to get back out there, I think it's probably more of a difference maker than you say a 10-year vet who's recovering to be like, well, they still need to get back up to game speed, but like mentally, you're trying to learn this Fangio defense, and it's one thing to get mental reps, and it's another thing to actually get out there on the field and go, okay, does he look right? Does he look like he can be out there and make plays? I mean, heck, Cooper DeJean was not doing well enough for Vic Fangio to say he was ready yet until post-bye week. So, I don't know. There's a chance. Maybe Sidney Brown. I'm not saying I'm kind of in between. I'm not saying like a yes for sure he's going to be solid, but I'm also absolutely not writing him off. Like, there's no going, oh, this will be just terrible. I'm just questioning, like, man, it's a lot. It's a lot of a double down on the youth movement. Let's hope these guys are there, but yet at the same time, we say you draft these guys for a reason. You draft them as a 3rd-round pick. We'll see. Deep Crow with a 5 getting some of these super chats. Appreciate that. Says, still waiting for a minor surgery report about Jake the Make. It's easy to forget how stressful kicks and PATs work.
Didn't he have minor surgery right after the season? Didn't he? Or at least said that he was injured,
Yeah, I thought he said he was injured. I don't know if he got surgery, but I think he had the, what was it? Was it the groin injury? Or what was there? There was some injury that he kind of announced.
I Googled it here. There were reports of Jake Elliott dealing with some soreness and potential injury during the season that he played through. Bo Allen hinted at that on the Chris Long podcast. But they have he has not had any sort of surgery. So it might not be an injury that needed surgery, just an injury that needed him not to be kicking on it every single day, getting ready for a playoff game. So we might not get an official surgery announcement, and maybe there's it's so minor that it's not a big deal. So I see Benji saying, did Elliott have surgery? No, there's been no report of Elliott having surgery. The super chat was asking if he did, because there was that rumor at the end of the season that he had been dealing with something, hence all the misses. So, which honestly is not a bad little thing to kind of push out to the media. If you're a kicker who's missing kicks, it's like, just tell him I'm a little bit banged up, and they'll all be like, oh, he was hurt. He's hurt. Bring him back another year.
I knew there was some reason.
Either way.
Kicks better in a dome, so
yeah,
made him when they counted, right?
Yeah.
Just made just enough.
Just enough.
Whew, that Rams game. Wow, how that could have changed things. But Jalen Carter. Eagle 1 with a 5. Just ban it for the tush push and let's move forward. We will be fine. I don't want them to ban it, but I think we'll be fine either way.
We've seen that stat where the Eagles, I think the stat in 2017, the Eagles were better at quarterback sneaks, conversion rate in 2017 than they were this past season with the tush push. And that's the funniest thing of this whole thing, Josh, because Nick Sirianni said it and no one in the media talked about this. The tush push is literally a quarterback sneak. There is no difference from a quarterback sneak lineup to a tush push lineup to how they do either one of them. The only difference, and what the league doesn't want to have happen, or the Green Bay Packers, for instance, is Kenny Gainwell, or whoever is in Kenny Gainwell's spot this year, shoving Jalen Hurts forward. A quarterback sneak is run the exact same way. Now, maybe there's a little bit of a tweak to where the center dives a little bit further down. Not really. And so, if they're going to actually ban the tush push, which I talked about on my show 5 hours ago, Adam Schefter's saying it's going to happen. He was very adamant on The Fanatic this morning that it's going to be banned. Probably be banned in May because Roger Goodell doesn't like it. But if they ban the tush push, Philadelphia will just run the quarterback sneak minus the tush pushing, and they're going to convert 85% of them, 90% of them. It's not going to be a big difference. And that's the funniest part of this whole thing, because you hear injury concerns. People have been running quarterback sneaks for like ever, and no one ever gets hurt on them. So is it injury concern, or is the fact that everyone else can't stop it and it looks like a rugby play, and so we want to get it out of the league? It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It is, yeah. The argument of, like it's a boring play or not a football. Quarterback sneak is practically the same. Like there's so little. There's some different nuances. Yes, it looks a little bit different, but does anyone really go like, oh yeah, quarterback sneak? Like that's exciting. It's always the boring. You're like, They're going to run a sneak. If
Yeah.
you need 1 yard, the team is going to run a quarterback sneak. It is going to happen. So, like, whether they're getting pushed from behind, whether it's a quarterback sneak just with no one pushing it, either way. Shout out to Jeff Kerr, though. I did find the official stat there. So, actually, 2022 to 2024, so 2 seasons, 91.3%. And 2021, when the Eagles just ran the QB sneak, was 92.9. They're actually more effective without the tush push.
Yeah. It really is going to come down to just the NFL thinks it's a bad look because one team's good at it. They're going to ban it, and it's not going to make a single difference. And every time the Eagles run a quarterback sneak instead of a tush push next year, they'll probably do it even more. Just this big, middle finger to the NFL. It's going to be pretty funny.
They all got to complain about something. I don't appreciate the double standard to it, because you got teams that are like, it was about safety at first, or it was about the fact that it's not a football play, and then they change it and it's about safety now. It's like, okay, you weren't saying that before, and Sean McDermott, you didn't have a problem running it 4 times in the AFC Championship game, but now we've got some safety concerns about it. But
I know. Well, and just to put a bow on it, they literally 20 minutes ago, I read a tweet from Pro Football Talk or Pro Football Focus, whoever it is, saying they're about to begin discussions. Owners are for an 18th regular season game. Okay.
Yes.
About player safety. Ask any player who's played in the NFL more than 1 year, is an extra game more safe or less safe in your opinion? They would all say less safe. 100% of them would. And then the talks of playing in like Dubai or the Middle East for an NFL game in the future. Player safety. You want them to fly 24 hours or whatever it is. Make a stop somewhere in Istanbul or something like that to get to the Middle East and then come back. Player safety. It's so ridiculous. Any player can get hurt on any play. They've done a lot to get all the unsafe things out of the NFL. They apparently were banning the hip drop tackle, which we saw how many times they called that this past year.
I mean, my gosh.
I'm just so tired of talking about it. It's just getting really, 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 really old. It's really hypocritical. And in the end, it won't matter because Philadelphia is a great football team regardless and will be able to quarterback sneak.
Yes. Just hopefully we'll be just move on. Just move on with it. Like I know they had it was 16-16, so clearly it wasn't what they wanted, which is why they postponed it. But I'm just ready to be done with it. If it's gonna get banned, just go ahead. Like you said,
go ahead.
I don't want it to, but if it's going to, just ban it. Run the QB sneak. We still have a quarterback that squats 600 pounds. It's advantage for us, disadvantage for everyone else. Just move on. It's ridiculous that they're still talking about it. But Alex with a 10,000 bomb. Let's go. This is 10,000. It's CRC. What is that? Like Costa Rican? Are they colognes? Is that what they're like? I think that's what they're called. CRC. I know it's Costa Rica, but 10,000 of those. I have no idea what the exchange rate is, but
I'll tell you right now.
Okay, but we appreciate it nonetheless. 10,000 bomb.
That is $19.91.
Let's go,
USD.
Alex. Appreciate
and
that.
it is called the cologne with the little.
Okay, the cologne. I thought that's what it was. Okay, go Birds from Costa Rica. What's the chance, based on current roster, can the Eagles reach 3 championships in a row for the first time in NFL history?
3. So they would need to get this year and then the year after. Well, technically, it's hard to do. I would not bet money on 3 in a row. I think that there's a real chance to get back to at least the NFC Championship game this season. Divisional round for sure, right? And then who knows how far they go. 3 in a row is hard to do. The Chiefs were able to do it, but the Chiefs, I think, are going to take a massive step back. And so, good news is Philadelphia has all these key players they need for the next 2 years to make a three-peat if you want that possible, but hard to do. I think, as we say, with the current roster, we said it last season, just make it to the divisional round, right? Now, you lose in the divisional round, the season will still feel like a disappointment, but we don't know all the factors of getting there. Injuries. Is there a new team that pops up in the NFC that's like the Eagles of this year? Like it just blows everybody away and is so much better than everybody else. There are a lot of factors. So entering a season, it's win the division is step 1. Get to the divisional round is step 2. Anything else is like, okay, be a legendary Eagle roster. And that's what they did this past year.
I will say that if they can, I mean, it's always difficult. So but in a vacuum here, I would say if they can win this upcoming year Super Bowl, I think it's, I don't know how to phrase this necessarily. The third Super Bowl is easier than this coming one this season. I think because of the way the roster is made up and because of all the draft picks that they have for next season. Like this one's kind of an interesting dynamic, and we've seen it and felt it with players either getting moving on or traded, or what happens with Dallas Goedert. Like there's a lot of moving parts in this offseason. Not that you're going to not have that next season, but I think that there's a lot of core guys next season you're still going to have, and you're not making as many decisions like, okay, are we losing a massive piece here? It's like, no, we can at least make this work for one more season, and in the meantime, we can make some big-time moves because Howie has all those draft picks and, kind of getting some more firepower there. So, I don't know. You get this one, I would be more inclined. I don't know what my record prediction officially is yet, but I think I'd be more inclined to say record prediction next year would be higher than this season. Not that this season can't happen, but I don't know, just the way that the contracts and salary cap and all that plays out. So we'll see.
There you go.
It's not impossible. It's a bet that I would not throw a whole lot of money on, but if you sprinkle a little, I don't know what the odds are on that though, but like $10, $20, sure.
There you go.
Might as well.
Sure.
You waste it on a lot of other things. Don't drink coffee for like 3 days. If you're a coffee drinker, don't drink it for 3 days. Use that on the bet. Who knows? Rez with a 2. I didn't see a comment. Oh, actually, here's a comment. Do you guys think we will get Abdul Carter? This is the continual question.
There's one every stream. No. The Browns are going to take Abdul Carter. That feels like a lock. That feels like Cleveland's going to take Abdul Carter. Then the Giants, it's Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, 1-2. Then it gets interesting because the report today is that Shedeur Sanders is not guaranteed to be a Giant. There are a lot of people who don't think Shedeur Sanders would have been a first-rounder in last year's draft. Like, there are a lot of people who have a lot of concerns about Shedeur being worth a top 5 draft pick. Now, that's kind of up to you. He's a very unique player in terms of what he's had to deal with and what he's kind of been, through the course of his collegiate career. I mean, he comes from nowhere. And then, Jackson State is not necessarily a powerhouse program, right? Even though he balled out there, it's like, okay, do it in the big leagues. And he goes to Colorado, and he has a lot of really great moments, but he also has a lot of bad moments that not a lot of people want to talk about. And so, do you spend the 3rd overall draft pick when you just signed Russell Wilson, you just got Jameis Winston? Can you afford to miss on a quarterback if you're that, coaching staff and front office? And then if Shedeur doesn't go 3, is he a lock to the Raiders next? Does he fall out of the top 10? That's going to be the interesting part so far of this first round is where Shedeur Sanders goes, because you also got to go ahead and mix in the Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter, who people maybe like more. There's a scenario where the Giants go Travis Hunter instead of a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman, which they obviously need, or obviously Shedeur Sanders. So Abdul Carter is going to go ahead and be the number 2 overall draft pick, and Philadelphia has no shot. That dream is dead. Sadly.
Yeah. By the way, Anthony had mentioned this and also texted. So officially, the 14 visits reported: 7 offensive line, 3 edges.
So it is half.
2 interior defensive line, 1 running back, 1 cornerback. Yeah. So yes, there's a whole lot of interest in the offensive line. I don't know this. I'm sure that Anthony knows this off the top of his head. I don't know how that compares to last year's top 30 visits. I don't know how many percentage-wise were based on,
that'd be a good thing to check. Yeah,
but I would be curious where the interest was, at least percentage-wise, because we still have, the 16 remaining ones. IBH with a 5, we appreciate that, says, when you were at the Nolan golf event, did he say if he would be ready for training camp or regular season?
How about that? I actually asked.
Yes.
So now's a good time to actually talk about the Nolan golf event, because we drove to Savannah on Sunday afternoon. You flew into Atlanta, because I live in Atlanta, and then drove down there with my buddy Alex and your brother Jonathan. Spent the night. Savannah was great. My first time in Savannah, living in Atlanta for like 5 years.
There we go.
So fun time there. And then, went to the golf tournament on Sunday. And it was a really fun event. It's exactly what you want a golf tournament like that to be, because it was well run, but also very hands off. I've been to, some events where there's all these different rules and, different starting times, and it can just kind of be a mess. And this was very much like here's your foursome, here's your tee time, here's where you're going to start, and go have fun. And so we had a blast. And Nolan, of course, can't swing a golf club because of the injury, which we'll talk about. And so he was on the second hole that we got to. So our second hole, went out and hung out with them for probably 5-10 minutes, and then hung out with them later on in the afternoon. But I asked him the question. We're all wanting to get tricep. He says it's healing great. He says he's going through rehab right now, and he will be ready for the start of training camp, is what he told me. Mm-hmm. He does look like he lost weight, which I think was kind of the funny thing when I sent that picture that I posted on Twitter and to our YouTube channels. He's definitely lost weight. I mean, I think he was, playing weight was 235, 240.
Yeah, he said, because remember he was like, oh, I gained 8 pounds of muscle during the offseason. So he was saying that he was up to like what 247, I think was the number that he said. Now, we can debate that, whatever. It's not important, but he said 247.
He's under 225 right now.
I would guess he's got to be more than that. You think so? He's more than I am. So like I'm 221. He's more than I was gonna guess he's like 230. He's probably like 232, 235, somewhere in there.
Because those were the comments, because you stood right next to him, and it was like, he looks as big as Josh is, because you're, 6'3".
We'll be fair. Yes, maybe that's the case. The pictures, the angles and stuff, he was on a slope and all that. I feel like he was still a little bit more weight-wise. But he's definitely less, for sure.
He's obviously lost weight because he can't work out upper body. I mean, he has no use of that arm, and so you can't bench press, you can't do your curls, you can't do everything to keep the upper body. Zero back exercise. Talking about size, where size comes from in the upper body. The back is the biggest muscle up there, and he can't do anything for it. So he obviously was going to lose weight. The second he is cleared, he's going to put that all back on, and he should be ready to go. So not worried about the overall injury, but as far as the person, you and I have had a chance to meet a lot of Eagles the past 2 seasons. Saquon, AJ, Jalen, Jalen Hunt, BG. I mean, the list, Isaiah Rodgers. All of them have been nice. I think Jalen was obviously kind of more in a crowd, so we didn't really get to talk to him for too long. He was a little bit less, I would say, I don't know, friendly is the word. He wasn't mean, but he was just not necessarily wanting to chat, whereas everyone else was. A.J. Brown is super nice. BG is insanely nice. Jalen Hunt was crazy nice. Nolan Smith was like one of the nicest guys I've ever met. I mean, he was really, really awesome. You could just tell that he was excited about the charity tournament, obviously, but also just excited about where he's at in his career, because he was labeled a bust after year 1. There was talks right now, this time last year, of like, he doesn't do anything, what's he going to be? And now he's like our best edge rusher, and everything seems to be right in front of him. He was drafted to take over BG's role. Everyone said that, personality-wise, leadership-wise, playing-wise, and he's done every single one of those things so far, and it was fun hanging out with him. He was really, really, really cool and really nice.
Yes. It was a highlight, obviously, for all of us. For me, I don't know what my heart rate was standing over that ball, as we've kind of joked about.
I was going to say.
For people.
Yes.
That was, I told you after, I told Alex and Jonathan as well, I was like, my goal going up there with that was just to make connection with the golf ball. Like, I don't kill it. Don't try to do too much. Just make connection with the golf ball. But for the best shot of the day to be on that hole, I can't make that up. So
264 to the front, and you put it on the back of the green, drivable par 4. So, and Nolan says it in the video that my buddy Alex got. He was pretty darn impressed. Now, sadly, no one got a video of me, but I was the designated 4-iron off the tee for every single hole that we played, because I wanted to get one in play, because we were trying to win the tournament, which we didn't win. But I had a totally fine 4-iron right in the middle of the fairway, and so I was definitely nervous as well. But Josh actually crushed a drive, which is a lot harder to do than hitting an easy 4-iron. So, is what it is.
Don't shortchange yourself. 4-iron. A lot of people can't drill the 4. Yours was a tight draw 4-iron right in the middle of the fairway.
Nice and easy.
That takes the pressure off of us, because we're like, all right, we're good. We're in business. So
there you go. Either way, we shot a 6 under 66. We had 7 birdies and 1 bogey, because it was a 4-man scramble. And
that tells, by the way, that should tell everyone, like, we're keeping things above board, honesty, integrity. Not that we're saying anything from the people that won, but if you mark a bogey on your card in a scramble, now I know we shouldn't be bogeying, but if you mark one, then that just probably tells you all you need to know. So 66.
The winners were 16 under. What was it, a 53 or something like that? 56?
56, yeah.
And nothing against them, because they're great, golfers at all ages. But they were about my dad's age. So it was not a young crowd that beat us out there. So that's all I gotta say.
I won't doubt it necessarily just from the age, because I know a lot of players that play really well from
16 under though is crazy.
With those greens. That's I've seen people, and I think I've seen legit people win at that score. That's just I would have loved to see it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not doubting it couldn't have been done, but for those greens, because it had rained like crazy, and it had kind of changed things with those. You watch one roll to the right, and you're like, oh, okay, let's try to aim it left, and then it goes left this time. So that's all I'm saying. But overall, it was great. Yes, John M says age does not matter. We know age does not matter.
No, it's very true. It's very true. It's just 16 under is 16 birdies and 2 pars, and that's what they did. They did not hit a bogey, and it was all birdies. So I don't know. It was
good
fun.
for them. Congratulations.
Speaking of Nolan Smith, I just got Nolan Smith just retweeted. He actually followed me on Twitter like 20 minutes ago and just retweeted my tweet there. So
There
shout
we
out
go.
to
Yes.
Nolan Smith. He
Yes.
knows we exist now. How about that?
He does. Yeah, that was the highlight of the day, I think, for getting the follow. I'm not sure that I envisioned that happening, but
Nope.
it is possible now. So,
Yep.
but I will just say this too. I agree. It's good to see good things happening to good people, and Nolan doing that, getting the key to Savannah, paying for college for the 2 first
Yes.
Savannah members there. That was awesome. I was telling my wife about this and a couple others as well, but I feel like this may be ridiculous, but I kind of feel like I was either like the big brother feel or like the dad feel, because I have girls of like whenever I'm watching Nolan get the awards, like I had this biggest smile on my face, and if somebody looked over at me, I'm sure they're thinking like, why on earth is he smiling so much? You know, because like it's cool. But I was like overhyped about that to see it happen. But it was an incredibly proud moment. So I don't know if it was like extra or too much. But yeah, to see that happen to him and his crew, shout out to Darren and Jeremy. It was such a great event. So definitely a tradition
Next year
we'll be doing for sure.
For sure.
Clayton says, a tournament that he was at, score of 54. Dudes were like 22 under.
Holy cow.
I don't know.
Is that 4 PGA pros playing
parse.
together? That's hard to do. That's really hard to do.
It is crazy whenever you have some people out there that are getting those. But, you know, mulligans, people try to give themselves extra attempts. Even
sure
so,
they
that's whew, that's crazy.
Yep.
Alex here with the 5,000 more colognes. I think that's how I would pronounce that. Do we even know how much Eagle, how much... Okay, I think he's saying how much the Eagles offered Justin Reed. Himself said the offer was not attractive. This attempt does not contradict Howie's offer right after trading CJ if the offer was lowballed.
Yeah, that's basically, if you're, context here, Justin Reed said on Kay Adams' show that he was being pursued by Philadelphia, but obviously went with the Titans, obviously because of the money. So yeah, Philly could have easily lowballed him, but they didn't lowball him so much to make it like laughable. I'm sure that they went, hey, we can't offer you Tennessee money, $4 million less, come play for a winner, come play in NFC title games, right? That was the offer. So it wasn't like that they, absolutely, I don't know what you call it, didn't, lowballed and gave him some cheapo offer and he laughed at. I think it was probably competitive for the fact that Tennessee is not going to win their division this year. They're not going to have a chance at the Super Bowl this year. No offense. It's probably not going to happen. We'll see what Cam Ward does. But Philadelphia does. So either way.
Yeah. I would, again, it's all speculation, but like, if it was so far off, if they couldn't get anywhere close to the 3 years for $30 million, then Howie's not even going in there to make an offer. Like, there's not even an offer on the table, because you have a relative idea of where someone's at. So if I had to guess, I'm saying, okay, he's maybe, if they hear, well, he's getting some offers, potentials from New Orleans, 3 for 30 or somewhere around there, then what, 3 for 25? See if he's willing to take a couple mil each year off and see if something like that. Now, still, I don't blame him for going, no, I'm going to take the 5-6 extra million, but that's pretty close to CJ's number. So that's the argument. The argument is just if you're willing to trade CJ and then still pay basically the same amount to another player,
right?
It's not everything meets the eye, as we learned. As well, and have learned, but we're not able to share specifics. But let's just say there's more that meets the eye with some moves and CJ trade and other things.
A lot more, yes.
Yeah, it's not just exactly for saving money. We'll just say that. Moving on, because we're not going to stick there. But David,
we're not going to stay there
with the 5. Are you wanting to add anything else?
No, I was going to say.
Okay.
When Lord Brunson said he had to go, that was something that I kind of latched on whenever they traded Gardner Johnson.
Yeah.
Lord Brunson, I think, knows what we know now, and that's all that you can say. I think it's very interesting that what we know has not come out. I would say, because we don't know as much as beat writers do. I have a feeling that there is some protection, I think would be the right word, which is fine. I'm sure it happens all the time in the NFL because most things that leak are leaked on purpose. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that Gardner Johnson had to go based on what you and I were told, and we'll leave it at that. It's as simple as that.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that he was a bad person by any means, or it doesn't mean that he was a bad, bad at this or bad at that, but it just meant that Philadelphia thought that they needed to move on, and hence why they traded him somewhat out of the blue. It wasn't really out of the blue, though, if you know.
And it speaks for, a couple other things, too. I mean, if you see he was in Philly, he was in New Orleans first, goes to Philly, leaves Philly the first time. Detroit can't stay there for longer than a year, leaves Detroit. Philly again, leaving Philly. So, common denominator there. So,
there you go.
Do your own investigation. Do your own speculation. You can come to the correct conclusion pretty quickly.
There you go.
Anthony texted me this, by the way, before we continue. 28 reported, because I knew that he knew this, so shout out.
It's from last year.
Follow him at DeBona NFL if you're not. 28 reported visits from 2024 that didn't have conflicting reports. Because remember, we had the weird, strange stuff going on. So out of the 28 that were legit, not conflicting, 9 were cornerbacks, 8 were offensive line, so still a lot, 8 offensive linemen, 4 edge, 3 linebackers, 3 wide receivers, 1 running back.
That sounds like everyone that they drafted, right? Did they take any position group outside of that last year? I'm trying to remember. Because I know they didn't take all top 30 guys, but I don't think I think that they took all, those were the positions that they took.
Yeah, so, because he says here, Quinell Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalix Hunt, Johnny Wilson, and Anais Smith were all in that group.
Okay.
So but obviously they did take some others that were still in that group because,
right.
Dylan McMahon was an offensive lineman. He was not in that group, but
they went corner, edge, running back, wide receiver, linebacker, offensive lineman, wide receiver, offensive lineman. So those are all, So by those metrics, if we're using just last year's top 30, then what position group plus player, but really what position group they meet with, doesn't matter how many times, is likely going to be where they're going to go in the NFL draft, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of offensive linemen so far. And they're still probably not done, right? Because if they have 7 now, they might get to 10, 12 top probably 30 visits to the offensive line.
Probably so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot. David, back to yours. Appreciate the 5. Resorting to calling the shove a rugby play is the most brainless thing I've ever heard. Somehow dumber than the pushing the injury lie. Go Birds. It is, the consistent, because you got Jordan Mailata not calling it a rugby play, who would know better than just about anyone. If he said, it's kind of, rugby play, there's some similarities there, whatever, then okay, maybe, we give a little more credence. You got a former rugby player that's not agreeing with that.
Yeah. If they really thought it was a rugby play, they'd have to ban the quarterback sneak as well, and that would be insane. So they won't do that.
Yeah, no. It's and then the injury point of the whole posturing, we're not going to go down that line, but the posturing and why the significant injuries and others, there's so many plays in the NFL that you could say, they might get injured. So where do we draw the line at saying we're going to ban this because they could get injured? There could be a significant injury. We're not going to ban that.
Yeah.
There's just a million different things. Jamarcus with a 5. This won't happen, but what would be the emotions if a wide receiver is taken at 32 via Luther Burden or Matthew Golden or even Ibuka?
Emotions would be shocked because I don't think it's going to happen. Jahan Dotson really can be something this year. I would buy a lot of Jahan Dotson stock going into 2025. Not to say he's going to have 1,000 yards, but to say that he easily doubles his production this past season, which is, because again, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, they're taking all the production, 90%, so he only gets 10% of the touches, right? But if Dallas Goedert's gone, then I think Dotson's going to be a lot more productive than people realize. And Philadelphia knows that. They spent a high draft pick to go ahead and get him, and so they kind of need to make sure they, use everything they possibly can out of him before he goes to free agency. I do wonder about Avery Williams, Josh, because I talked about this on my show today.
Yes.
Nick Sirianni was asked this question yesterday during his NFL owners meeting, and Sirianni had a 30-minute press conference, and he talked about a lot of different stuff, but then he was asked about free agent additions, and he named all of them, but then twice went back to Avery Williams and how excited he was for Avery Williams, who is this, D1 kick and punt returner who, in 2022 2021 broke or tied, I guess, the Division I record for kick return and punt return touchdowns with 9. He was number 1 in punt return yards for the Atlanta Falcons in 2022. Injuries have been a problem for him, and he hadn't really found his forever home. I do wonder if Avery Williams has a little bit more up his sleeve in Philadelphia, or they do for him, than just kick and punt returns. Because the past couple of seasons, and I talked about this with on my show today, they've tried to find the gadget guy. They've tried to find this guy who can be a slot receiver, do some end arounds, kick coverage, punt coverage, Britton Covey, for instance, and these special teamer worked out very well before the injury. And then drafting Anais Smith this past season, Josh, that was what they drafted Anais Smith for. They clearly see a role for this kind of gadget guy, and I think they want to utilize it more going forward. And Nick Sirianni talked about, changes to the offense as well with the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. But I do wonder if Avery Williams is going to be someone that actually means something this year. Not a crazy role because of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, but a little bit more than I initially thought when they signed him, because I kind of saw him as like a, not a big deal.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely onto something there. Do they? How many snaps does he take from a Jahan Dotson? If
Right.
that's the role in there, obviously. But still, yeah, if they see a little bit more, and you got a guy who's obviously shifty, elusive, you get him at the very least, just return wise. But yeah, you add him to the offense, get a few extra plays. He will get some more returns because the new rule of nobody's going to kick it out of the back of the end zone. They shouldn't. If they do, it's a complete mistake because all of a sudden you're like, hey, you want to take the ball at the 35-yard line? Absolutely. One play from field goal range. That to me is ridiculous. But because of that, you're going to have a lot of returns. So why not? Yeah, a gadget guy, proven to be able to break tackles, be elusive, make people miss. I don't mind that.
It just seems like they've wanted one. It seems like they've been trying to find one.
Yeah.
And I hope Anais Smith, but, he caught the touchdown in the Week 18 game, but just couldn't really get on the football field. So, we'll see.
KG was bringing up Anais, as you were saying that too. Yeah, I said, I'm going to say Anais Smith breakout this year. And then also Shakeman Genetics was saying, do you think Anais is going to pan out to be a decent receiver for the team?
I think that he came into training camp injured. I messaged with him on Twitter, and he had told us just that. That wasn't like a hidden secret, but he had mentioned that he's still dealing with that. And I think that it takes a while to kind of figure out an NFL offense from a college route tree. And obviously, he was not running a college route tree at Texas A&M because he was kind of their gadget guy, right? So,
yep.
And then the A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith factor is something that we just can't overlook when talking about Jahan Dotson, Anais Smith, Avery Williams. You don't get a lot of touches because when A.J. Brown is on that football field, Jalen Hurts is going to look his way, regardless of coverage, right? So it's tough. And obviously, one of these players is going to, win the job, and another will probably get cut. And they put draft capital in Dotson, so he probably has, I meant obviously Dotson, but obviously I meant Anais Smith. So Williams has a long way to go. But they clearly have a idea in their mind of a kick returner, punt returner, gadget guy, hopefully making the roster. And so we'll see.
And it also goes back to the Sidney Brown case that we're making. He's injured, misses training camp, late getting started, finally seeing the field, middle of the season, certainly several games into it, and finally getting to play as more special teams. So a slower start to begin with. Whether he was going to get a role in that type of a position, on the defense, probably not anyway, but still like later to get in anyway, or later to get in on the field. Same thing with Anais Smith, because of the point that you made of the injury. So, is there an opportunity there? They did try to stash him away with the IR move, and he's got some injuries with the the ankle or the hamstring. So I'd be curious. I don't know 100%. I'm definitely not giving up on it. It's a similar move. Like, you get this guy who you think that you can turn into something, but maybe it's him, maybe it's Avery Williams. I agree with you though. There's onto something because they're seem to, hey, if we get somebody who maybe these plays work, they've tried some end rounds to Smitty, didn't necessarily. There's one, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one that was fairly effective, but other than that, I think we remember the Smitty running into Jalen and all the mess of the Commanders game, and it just hasn't worked out that well. It'd be great if you can, if it's Avery Williams or Anais Smith, somebody, but so far they have not found that guy. Let's see, Dino with a 2, appreciate that. Don't see a comment, but I know longtime listener, supporter, viewer, member, so we appreciate it, Dino. John M. with the 5, this was from earlier, talking about CJ, but says, where do we go to know? Wink, wink. So obviously for the CJ news.
I saw someone say that, don't bring it up if you can't talk about it. I don't ascribe to that, because when CJ Gardner-Johnson got traded, all of us were like, what is going on? So, it's just, now that we have an idea, I would say, or maybe we really know, I think we know what happened. We aren't going to say it, but essentially just know that it was not just for money, right? And I think that should hopefully give Eagle fans a little bit of, closure on the situation, because it gave me a lot. It definitely made things clear for me, because I was one who was like, what are we doing? Go back to the live stream. We traded Gardner-Johnson. Like, this is the dumbest move ever. So it makes more sense.
Absolutely, yeah. And if someone tells you like, "Hey, look, this is kind of off the record. We're not really sure," then we're certainly going to
keep it off the record.
Respect that and keep it to that.
We can be big J journalists whenever we want to be, right?
Absolutely,
come on, journalism degree, journalism minor. Come on,
trying to.
Yeah, we know how it works.
Try to keep the relationships. Also, John with the other 5 said if the NFL cared about player safety, they would not let Tua play, and that is 1,000,000%.
Yeah, right. I mean,
should not be back out there on the field at all. And you don't even let him make that decision. I know that he took some extra time, talked with the family. Does he want to come back? The concussions, all that. But that's an NFL decision. The NFL steps in at that point. If they really have only players say that's the first and foremost, we don't care about anything else, you step in and go, hey, look, this is not a decision here that you should be making. We see this as a significant player safety issue. You've had so many concussions. We're sorry, but no.
Yep.
But he goes back on the field. So,
yep, pretty much.
It's still about some of the cash. Here we go. Dirty D.
There he is. There he is.
Dan the man. What's up?
Says,
what's up? What's up, y'all? Just tuning in. Go Birds.
So for context, Dirty D, Dan, was one of the people who saw us talking about Nolan Smith's charity golf event, and he lived in Augusta, and drove down to golf in the event, and we hung out. He sat at our table. We hung out with him for like an hour at least. So really cool to not only meet someone who watches the show, but hang out with them for a long time. So I saw him comment on my show yesterday, and I told him DM me on Twitter. So we're linked up. Next time we're in Philly, maybe he goes to a game, we'll definitely link up. He was awesome. Really, really fun meeting you, Dan.
Heck yeah. And Dan, the crazy thing is the drive too, right? Because he'd gone up 13 hours and then hardly any sleep and showing back up to the event. But
and he was crushing drives. He was on the other across from us, and when I saw one of the drives, he was whacking him. He was doing good.
Had to go with the doing the drives, and then I think he had the other individual on his group that was doing or taking care of the chips, which that's the best way to do it. I think most people know. Anyone who plays scramble, you got to have specialists. Oh, you want to have a general ability, sure, but you need to have specialists. Somebody who's pretty good, solid at drives, somebody chips, somebody iron play, and then hopefully everybody can putt. I think that was our biggest issue. We had so many opportunities on the putter and just couldn't capitalize. You sir were the best on putting. Well, I'll certainly give you that.
It was tough.
I don't know how
greens.
many you dropped, but
not enough to win.
More than anybody else though, because we're sitting there going you got to be kidding me. We had how many 7-footers, and you're like, okay, you missed. Yeah. We miss all 4 of them. No, pick it up. It's a par.
Happened a lot.
Next time. Let's see here. Mark with a 10. Appreciate that. Mark says in Howie's press conference at the Combine, he tells Zach Berman he has an unhealthy obsession with linemen, not a healthy one. It's at about the 10-minute mark in the video. So yes, just for those wanting to go check it out. Appreciate you both. It's a good call out.
He's going to take an offensive lineman. He's going to take a guard. I know they got Kenyon Green, and I know that they obviously brought back Matt Pryor, so they don't need a guard. Technically, they have depth there. He's going to take a guard. And I think Trevor Keegan, I have no clue what happened to Trevor Keegan this past season. I mean, there was no, obviously Tyler Steen is in front of him, but there was no real updates about the entire year about where's Trevor Keegan at. So I think he kind of had a crash course and had to get his degree in Jeff Stoutland University and really figure things out. So I think he comes into play here in year 2. But they will take an offensive lineman, probably a tackle at some point, maybe early on. I could see a second-round draft pick being a tackle, Josh, just because, as we know the number, when Lane Johnson goes down, which he has not played a full 17-game season since his rookie year, minor injuries here and there, a couple major ones, but when he goes down, the win-loss record is pretty abysmal. So maybe they want to have that assurance since Fred Johnson is gone. I don't know. But offensive line, it's going to happen, and not just because Howie is obsessed with them, but it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. If they don't, I wouldn't mind if they wait till later, but I also would not be surprised if they take one earlier, like in the second round. If they wait till later, I would certainly say, consider a Jalen Travis from Iowa State, because there's potential ability within that, but he's kind of like a Jordan Mailata 2.0. Anthony's been talking about him quite a bit, or at least brought him up on the radar initially, top 30 visits, all that. But yeah, if you You want a little bit of a project, but you're not quite ready because you look at Mailata and Lane Johnson. So not the worst thing if you consider those. We'll see. But let's see. There's other comment. Oh, yes, John, if you ain't first, you're last, shake and bake. That I think we saw or heard some people saying that towards the end of the scramble, by the way. So, yes, it's first or nothing else. Oh, actually, that I did want to bring that up too. Nolan at the scramble. So I can appreciate this competitiveness. And Darren, his manager agent, was telling us about this, but like he was asking him, saying like, okay, hey, there's a prize for first place. What about second place? Like, what do we get? And he's like, are you kidding me? Second place? There's nothing for second place. Get out of here. So yes, if you ain't first, you're last. And you can appreciate the competitiveness, the competitive spirit for Nolan, even with the scramble. Let's see, Samuel with a 5. Appreciate that. Does Jackson fill the role of Slay, or does Ringo beat him out?
Ringo should beat him out, I think. That will TBD. And the problem is that we were told Kelee Ringo was winning the job early on in training camp, right? The same way that Zach Bond was winning the job. And it was a little like, are you sure? Same went for Kelee Ringo. And he was obviously beating out Isaiah Rodgers and Quinyon Mitchell. And then something changed to where it was, Isaiah Rodgers got more snaps. And then Q kind of basically got the final couple there once he proved himself in the preseason, and the rest was history. So we know Kelee can play. The question is at what level. I have a feeling he's going to be pretty good this year. We're going to hang out with him during our little meeting with the Philly Dogs sometime this summer, I think. So which we don't know the date on yet, by the way, people.
Social?
So Ice Cream Social. Take some subscribers to that. We talked about that on previous videos. Mm-hmm. But I hope he wins it, because it'd be nice to have a young corner on a rookie core. 2 young corners on rookie contracts, 3 with your nickel, and have him do it. But I think they might take a corner at some point this draft as well.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they don't. It's a little interesting that Maxwell Harrison, Kentucky cornerback, was brought in for a visit. We've mentioned him in the past. He'd be much earlier, like 32, probably a little bit too early, but it's like 64 is too late. So do you trade back and get him? Does he maybe he falls later, and you're at 64 and you go, hey, great, this is the guy that you want to take. But if you get him there, I think that signifies even more doubt, or maybe that's too strong of a word, but just some unknown with Kelee Ringo. Yeah. And you're going like, yeah, let's go ahead and bring some more competition in. But we'll see. Wouldn't be surprising. Dirty D, one more as we're getting close to wrapping here. Appreciate you guys. With a 5, says, yes, driving it like Tiger Woods until I had to do it in front of Nolan. Then I didn't even make it past the ladies' tee box. Also says, I'm feeling Starks round 1. So
okay, there you go. Yeah, I would like Starks. And listen, I can't blame you, because I was the first one to hit out of our foursome in front of Nolan Smith. And it's like, I wonder how the pros do this, like at the Masters in front of millions of people on TV, and also tens of thousands on the course. So no shame in missing that shot. So, you'll get him next year.
Yeah. There were all the other ones. But yeah, I totally understand the anxiety and everything else. Cause like I said, the heart rate was through the roof at that moment. Just, extra adrenaline. Doubled with the membership for 4 months. Said go Birds. Appreciate that one. And Shake Man asking this to confirm, yes, we will be streaming for the draft. I know some people watching the streams
100%.
or whatever, we said it multiple times, but we will absolutely be streaming for the draft.
Yep.
First couple days for sure, and then probably not for day 3. That's a long one and everything else, but obviously recaps and everything.
Yep.
To follow. So yes, we will be streaming. Brandon also saying, Josh and Thomas, great news, cleared for football and soccer. Let's go.
There you go.
Okay,
good.
So for the injury there, but cleared for both. That's very good news. Love to hear it. All right, I think that's a wrap here. We made it for the full hour.
There you go.
Great hanging out with you guys as always. Make sure to like and subscribe. Other giveaways, upcoming videos, everything else. And like we said, we haven't had major breaking news in a while, but if we sign anyone, we will of course be going live. So no Dallas Goedert trade yet, no matter what you've seen, if there's been these fake posts.
Not yet.
But if it does happen, we will be breaking live. So
there you
appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. Till next time. Go Birds.
Go Birds.